and me and a few of my people who are working on this new product are all there that we can answer questions.
Welcome back to another installment of the Next Gen Case Study Series. On today's episode, we have Sam Ostrom, who is the head of business development at Audify, among many other hats. Audify is an AI-powered software testing platform that automates web and mobile application testing. With a background in customer success and software engineering, Sam has been instrumental in helping Audify expand its reach in the U.S. market. His work focuses on enhancing the platform's AI capabilities to reduce manual testing and maintenance, accelerating release cycles for development teams, and Sam's deep expertise in no-code testing solutions has positioned him as a leader in driving innovation and automated testing, which is why we're excited to have him on the show. Sam, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me. You did your research.
A little bit, yeah. We like to know who we're talking to. Um, it really helps to fuel the conversation to make sure that we got the right guy on. So
Yeah,
it's
no,
it's
that's very impressive.
yeah, and I'm excited to get into some of the work that you're doing here with Audify.
Sure.
I recognize that we're kind of both AI centered businesses, so there's a lot of synergy here, I believe. But before we get too far into it, Sam, let's start with just a couple of minutes on who you are, where you came from, and how you landed as the head of BD at Audify.
Yeah. So I've been with Audify now for 3.5 years, I think it is. Before that, I actually was in medical device sales, and then I spent about a year and a half learning programming on my own. So I started at Audify actually as a customer success engineer, which is basically a person who helps customers use our tool, our main tool. So as you said, it's a software testing tool that uses AI. So I'm doing everything from putting out fires, coding myself, helping them, putting together quotes. A lot of rigmarole, a lot of day-to-day stuff was where I started. Um, from there, I got promoted to manager pretty quickly. Um, so manager of the customer success division. And I was doing a lot of product work with Audify. So I was hired on as the second employee of the U.S. division for Audify. Now we've got about 10 people in the U.S., but we have about 200 people worldwide. Audify is also in Japan, main branches in Japan. So after that, I mean, my role kind of just expanded, to say the least. In a startup world, you kind of have to wear a lot of hats.
Mm.
And the US, were probably still considered a startup, that we just got our Series B funding. Uh, and then from there, I kind of found an interest in marketing, business dev work. Was doing a lot of like product manager work as well. So working a lot with the product. So I just have a pretty good understanding of Audify's business at this point. And so it kind of came naturally for me to take on that role.
I got a sense that there's this desire or hunger to learn as much as you can and evolve as quickly as possible. Like jumping from, sales success manager or customer success manager into the team manager and then into biz dev is there's a lot of very quick jumps in succession there to get you to where you are.
Yeah, I mean that I would definitely say that that's been a desire of mine at Audify,
Mm.
and Audify allows me to do that. But it's also been kind of a necessity. Um, you know, I have people who are working for me in the customer success division still, um, and they kind of stay within the customer success division. But even then, they still have to do stuff outside there. Again, it's just there's a lot of things to do, and we need to get it done.
How has that served you being so naturally curious in these roles? Because I know that there's on one hand, there's a need for you to constantly be evolving in the space and to
Mhm.
keep up with it, right? But on the other side of it, there's a lot of people out there that just aren't cut out for it. So how has it kind of helped push you along in your evolution?
I mean, I've always considered myself a jack of all trades kind of person.
Mm,
Um, we need specialists in the world. For me, I'm really good at implementation
mm,
and really good at speaking with people and forming those relationships. I'm not very good at the routine stuff. Once things get implemented and put in place, uh, that's where I lose interest. Um, so, I mean, as far as how it served me, I've really gotten to know the ins and outs of everything about Audify.
mm.
Uh, so I've kind of become the person, at least in the US, that people come to ask questions when they don't know. Um, which, it's an honor and a privilege to be able to be that person for other people. Um, it's also pretty invaluable. But not everybody can do that. And again, there's a lot of need for a specialist, especially in this world, uh, especially in AI too. I know enough to tell people what they need to know or tell them who they need to talk to find out what they need. Um, so I've kind of put my hands in everything, so to speak.
There's this you mentioned just a couple of minutes ago the jack of all trades thing. And
Yeah,
a really good friend of mine made a video a long time ago explaining that that saying was only a fraction of the full message that was meant to be shared when that whole idea was created. So I don't know if you're familiar with it, but for those of you listening who aren't, um, it's a jack of all trades is a master of none, but oftentimes better than a master of one. And for a long time, I remember, me kind of growing up in this space being like, oh, I'm a jack of all trades. I'm never going to be good at anything. And then when I heard that, I was like, oh my goodness, my whole world unlocked. The potential or the opportunity of there's actually a place for me, the guy who has multiple curiosities. And so I really do, Sam, relate to that. Um, once we get to this certain point, like I'm bored of this thing now. Like, what's new? What's exciting? What's the next thing? And to kind of keep pushing forward and finding new things to work on. And so having that your hand in many, many pots, knowing how all of the different aspects of this thing work, driven by that curiosity, I'm sure has helped shape the work that you do.
absolutely. I mean, the biggest benefit I can tell you of it, and it's a really that's a really interesting way to put it. Uh, in the way your friend put it, I should say. Uh, I see the combinations and the connection points between everything.
Right.
Whereas somebody who's kind of specialized in what they're doing is only going to see it with the perspective of whatever it is that they're doing.
Right.
And so a lot of times I'm able to see things that some other people are not able to. Um, but I do need those expertises to help guide and formulate those um, those thoughts.
Right. It's like a army in general scenario where we got the army.
Yeah,
They're really good at doing what they're doing. They're out there and they're making a mess, but they need some kind of guidance to know like, oh, hey, this is the path that we're supposed to be on because that's our destination. That's where we're headed. That's the thing that we're looking to conquer. And so you having that bird's eye view or a collected perspective of all of these elements, I think helps. So when it comes to and I love that you have experience from all of the different parts of this whole thing here. So this next question is probably going to challenge you to walk me through that. So on one side,
I'm up for it.
yeah, yeah. So on one side, you're dealing with front-facing customers, clients, you're working through their problems, putting out fires, doing all this other stuff. And then you kind of shift over to this other side where you're dealing
Right.
with sales and trying to convince people that this is going to help them or change their life or do something for them that's useful. And then from there, we got a whole other branch of people that or activities that's like we got to go find people that we can help, and so there's this ecosystem of all of these different things. In most companies, um, one of the biggest challenges they face is that there's a disconnect happening or a bad channels of communication kind of connecting all of these parts of the ecosystem. So for you, what was your approach to streamlining that, to making it more efficient? How does that process look for bringing in new customers? How have you contributed to shaping that?
So you're talking about the disconnect between like sales and marketing and the internal product managers and everything in the business.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Uh yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, I started customer success while it is focused primarily on post sale is a job that oftentimes ends up getting um, the stuff that nobody knows what to do with. Uh, you know, it's not quite sales, it's not quite marketing, it's not quite products, it's not quite accountings or finance. And so it kind of gets put in our lap. And so, I mean, I'm sure a lot of customer success managers will tell you that you almost have to be careful with what you accept. So that's how I started to see where those connection points were. After that, though, it was really okay. I saw problems with regards to like how customer success and sales was interacting, how customer success and marketing needed to interact, and then even internally, like with product, um, you're you need to give feedback to product so that they can and help guide them so that they can build the best features that are appropriate for customers. You know, you're kind of the front facing, you're the poster child for your
Right.
customers. Uh, and business dev is really it's similar and different than customer success. The difference really is now you're taking all of that and going out to customers pre-sale and going out and finding partnerships, finding places where you can help the business thrive on the outside instead of kind of more internally, so to speak. Uh, yeah, I mean, that's kind of how I did it. Again, as you said, I'm very curious. I was very interested in all parts of the business. I do really think business dev is another one that's like, you kind of have to know everything there is to know about sales and marketing and product and customer success. It's definitely a jack of all trades title. In
Right.
fact, I guarantee if you ask 10 different business dev people what they do, they will give you 10 different answers.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
On that note, Sam, if we zoom in to your specific efforts and,
sure.
and contribution to the approach to how you're acquiring new customers, I'd love to kind of explore what you guys are up to and what your approach to this whole thing is.
Yeah, so I mean, it's interesting you're asking at the right time for Audify. We're actually releasing a new product right now. So there's a lot of movement to kind of find different avenues with regards to getting customers to try out the new product. Some of that's talking with our old customers. Some of that's talking to going out and finding partnerships. We're sponsoring some events. We're doing podcasts like what I'm doing right now, uh, webinars, all sorts of different things, and trying to attract um, people in different channels. The other part of that is also finding the right people to contractors, is the best way I would put it, to help with those things.
Mm.
There's tons of companies that help with specific avenues, uh, and can give you a bigger audience. It's just about finding the right ones to do the job. Everybody has their kind of like specialty or something. So like we're talking with a couple, and we have a couple contractor companies that are specialized in AI and software testing. And so they're kind of also helping us gain awareness of this new product that we're about to release, as well as our old product. So, I mean, business dev is also just kind of having and seeing opportunities when they present themselves. Uh, there's a lot of times I am just having a chat with a friend or a friend of a friend, and it ends up leading me to finding a new person to talk to, that we can get a partnership from.
There's a
Mutual beneficial partnership, I should say.
yeah, there's a there's a idea or a concept that I kind of believe in, and that's when hard work and opportunity meet, that's
Yep.
luck. And so
Yep.
to some degree, there is this, hard work, we're creating something that's going to be useful and all that kind of stuff. And then on the other hand, it's um, somebody's going to need this at some point somewhere. We just have to go find those people. And so now you're out there sort of engineering that as the business development guy, trying to engineer that luck where, okay, all this team's hard work is going to meet the opportunity, and now we can kind of glue those things together, which is really powerful. But but you're challenged with the same thing a lot of other companies are is there's a lot of noise going on, and technology is
Yep.
evolving so quickly that
Right.
it's hard to get enrolled into something when oh, 6 months from now it's going to be a million times better, or a competitor's going to come and outdo them. And so if we're going to spend all our time onboarding to this thing, and then I have to move over to that thing, so it makes people really reluctant, which points at
Yep.
the point that you made very early. A lot of this is relationship based. A
Yep.
lot of this is about having conversations and connecting with people and going deep with them. But that also creates a lot of friction in the sales cycle because it takes time. And so what's your approach to combating that element of it taking too much time to go one to one versus, grand scale?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's really highly depends on what type of product you have,
Mm.
uh, what your company is trying to do. It's selling, I don't know, a thing of toothpaste is a lot different than selling a complex product, that costs, upwards of $10,000 or $5,000, whatever, per unit. Um, it's also, if it's a SaaS-based product, like a subscription or a one-time sale, all of those things affect the what channels you should go for. Uh, I will say that we've had a lot of failures among our successes. You try things out and see what works as far as sales goes, and you have to pay attention to the numbers. Um, if you're not tracking what your conversions and your leads and all the stuff to see what is working, you're probably not going to do very well. Um, Relationship based and relationship building is absolutely going to be the number one way to build a product and get feedback, and feedback's invaluable. But as you said, it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of effort. Uh, and, you know, it's a long-term thing. So versus, yeah, you can go out and build an email funnel for cold outreach in a week, and even less time now probably, and start reaching out to thousands of people, but your conversion rates there are probably going to be very low, especially nowadays. I even feel this. where we're inundated with sales outreach and calls and emails and everything. And so people are less likely to interact with you in that way. So going to events, putting on webinars, putting out content, putting out things for people to see, to gain interest, so that when you do reach out to them is also a really big thing. There's no one solution that fits all.
Right.
It is definitely a trial and error thing still to this day.
And so when you're going through that trial and error
Mhm.
process, how do you determine something is working and not working?
Yeah. I mean, one, you have to give it enough time. So, and you have to determine which channels you're using. Uh, so like relationship building and finding partnerships and talk, that can take 3, 6, maybe even a year. So if you're going to go down that road, you need to be committed. Going and getting a PR firm to build out content for you, that's a year commitment usually. So those type of things, you have to realize that, yes, that's a long-term commitment, and that's going to take a long time to do, but the payoff is generally pretty high if you do it right and it works. With cold outreach or like content or like content you're building yourself, um, or inbound leads that are coming to your traffic, doing SEO, that kind of stuff, that can be built a lot faster. And especially nowadays, I mean, there's companies that do that. You could do it in a day or two. It's all about tracking and those incoming leads, seeing how they convert. For us, we have a free trial, seeing people come in who come from a lead, convert over to a free trial, they convert, and then looking at, okay, did they become an actual paying customer? And then analyzing each one of those channels and the data regarding that and saying, okay, this is the cost that it's costing us. This is the how many leads we're getting and how much conversion we're getting. Is this worth the time and effort that we've put into this? And you analyze that. I mean, you continuously analyze that, but again, and for those, you might be able to shut that down or determine whether it's still worth keeping within like a couple months. And so that's why a lot of people still do it. I mean, it's as much as we hate, I think a lot of people hate getting like spam emails and cold calls all the time and everything. The reality of the situation is it still works because it's cheap and it's affordable and you can do it very fast versus this like relationship building and word of mouth. That takes a long time to do.
Yeah. One of my friends on Facebook posted, if it takes you longer than 6 months to sell something, whatever you're selling is a trend and it's not going to stick around. And I thought it's pretty broad generalization, but then I got into sales and I was like, oh, I see what you're talking about because there's a lot of people involved. It's a big ship most of the time, especially if you're aiming for the, upper tier of businesses that you're trying to serve. And so there's a lot of elements that you just don't factor in when you're like, yeah, I'm really good at this. I can just call somebody and convince them that they need this and then we're good. It's like, oh no, you have to like build a relationship and be authentic and all the other elements that come with that. And that, like, as you pointed out, takes time, right?
Yeah, I mean, it does, again, as I pointed out earlier, it does matter a lot about what product you're selling.
Mm.
So to use Audify in Audify's case, it's a complex product. Even though we are like aiming for it to be easier for people, um, it's still a very complex product. And so for me to convince somebody who has never used our system before to try it out, even not even to just buy it, like I have to go through a demo with them. I have to like show them the features. They're going to have questions, and then they're going to want to try it out, and then they're going to have more questions. I have to even just explain what it is that Audify does versus everybody knows what, toothpaste is, to go back to my previous example, like
Right.
everybody knows what that is. So now it's like, okay, I know what toothpaste is. What's the difference? What are you selling? What differentiates it from another competitor, right? So it really depends, and those processes can be longer for the complex process or products. Excuse me. It can just be a lot longer. I mean, our sales cycle to get a single customer in, the fastest we see is with PLG, which is product-led growth. So it's somebody has come in, read our content, they can go in and immediately try a free trial, and they can sign up and pay us immediately. Even that is like a month and a half.
Yeah, and they still have to play with it, right?
Yeah. And then, as you get higher up, you mentioned with like enterprise level companies versus smaller companies. I mean, enterprise level companies, there's a lot of levels you have to go through to convince, versus a smaller company can move faster.
Right.
That is the beauty of startups and beauty of smaller companies and medium-sized companies, and they don't have a lot of the corporate politics and policies that these big companies have to have. And so that can slow down the process too. If you're interacting with an enterprise level company, I would not expect to get a sale from them within, if you got a sale even within like a couple months, that's pretty good.
Yeah. There's the ecosystem is changing a lot. And one of the things I talked to with a previous guest earlier today was that rather than creating a community, because a community, that whole idea has been ruined, shout out marketers. But now this idea of they had open source software. And so they created a playground for people to get in there and experience things. And you know what, as you were talking, Sam, I was reminded of something like WordPress or
Uh-huh.
Squarespace or Wix. They all do the same thing essentially. You're dragging and dropping elements onto a page, and
Yep.
now you're calling that a website. And they sell it on the premise of easy. It's easy to use
Mhm.
this thing. It's a very complicated and complex tool, but it's
Yep.
easy to use. And it's so interesting that that's the language they chose, because how do you quantify what is or isn't easy? And compared to what? And so it's such a silly metric to sell something on. And to your point, when it is complicated and takes time, I think there's this emphasis that needs to be placed on engaging the prospect or the client or the person searching for the solution with potential solutions to the problem that they're having that are more granular, rather than being like, hey, here's the whole thing. Like, here's WordPress can build you a website, but actually you don't need a website, you need a landing page. And what's that? The mechanics of building a landing page are much different than the mechanics of building a website. So let's look at what that might look like. And now you have
Oh,
these groups of people who are affiliates to the company, so I get their motivation behind this. But they go on YouTube and they create all these tutorials and how-tos, and now WordPress as an entity has millions of minutes of content being published about their product without them ever asking or paying for it, right? Well, I guess they
right.
do pay when they sell affiliate stuff, but I think that points at something that is interesting in the work that you're doing, which is how do you create content that's going to be educational, have some utility, or be useful while also demonstrating the practical application or utility of the various elements of the tool that you offer.
Yeah. I mean, you're hitting one of the biggest things that we're even doing right now. But one of the things that I did for Audify when I first came in was I noticed that the lack of educational material. Um, Nowadays, if you're ever using a product or a SaaS subscription or anything, the first place I'm looking is I'm going to the resources. I'm going to look at documentation to find out what I need to know. And it needs to be easily read and easily organized so that I can find it quickly. That's another big thing. But then the other part,
Users.
you mentioned communities, and I can understand some of the marketers ruining the communities, but for our new product, uh, we've made a Discord for it that customers can come in and me and a few of my people who are working on this new product are all there that we can answer questions. And so they have a one-on-one interaction with us. And especially with a new product where you don't have a ton of customers for it, it's a really good way to get feedback, to give them updates, and to provide them with content that's useful to them. I am a very big proponent of providing something for a customer that they actually need and not just trying to sell it to them because we need money. It's if you treat your customer right and that this is going to work for them, you're going to have a lot better success than trying to sell something that's just not going to work. We're both wasting time at that point. And so there is just as much value in deciding which customers aren't the right fit for your product as there is in deciding which are. But as far as content and what to decide, I will also say, like, marketers nowadays, and there's writers and whatnot that, it's like, oh, we have to produce every day. We have to produce this content every single day. And the problem with that really comes in with the quality that you're producing. Now, if you can produce quality content at that rate, great. But from what I've seen, it's better to have content that engages the reader, but also is helpful for them in understanding something, whether
Right.
it's about your own product or the industry and surrounding things that your product and your company is in. So like software testing for us would be something, or even just explaining like the landscape, explaining competitors and explaining like what it is, what we're about. So there's a lot of content ideas out there, but it's making sure that the content is of a good quality is really important.
Well, and to further your point a little bit, quality not in the sense of high production value, quality in the
Correct.
sense of something that is useful to the person who's
Yeah.
looking for it. And I think that's when you characterize what quality looks like that, it's a slight reframe. It's very
Mhm.
subtle. It allows you to focus more on, hey, okay, what questions are people asking as it relates to product testing? How can we answer
Correct.
those questions with content that also demonstrates how our product solves for that problem so that they don't have to keep searching. They can just deploy this
Mhm.
thing right now and they've found a solution. And then for you to go one step further and create the habitat for your current clients to come into where they can get very quick real-time support, where they can ask questions, where they can play around with ideas, where they can help
Yep.
you evolve your product. That's different. And this is the differentiator that we made on the last conversation about the community thing, is it's not necessarily community so much as it is a playground
Yep.
where people are actually doing something meaningful, interacting with each
Mhm.
other. And I think that's really, really powerful. And as a trend and a shift, uh, something that I think more businesses should get on board with because it only serves to elevate the whole ecosystem. If we're all having a really good experience with the businesses that we patronize, imagine what kind of a world could exist because of that, right? So incredible
Yeah,
that that's your focus, dude. As we kind of come to a close with our time together, I wonder if we can look forward a little bit at
sure.
some of the bigger things that you guys are working on, or the, what's on the horizon for Audify and some of the work that you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, for us, I kind of mentioned it previously, but we're releasing a new product. It's an AI product that uh, it generates test scripts. So it partners with an engineer to generate test cases and test scripts for software testing. Uh, right now, it's with uh, Microsoft Playwright and our own main product, so the Audify no code product that those test scripts can be written in. As far as on the horizon goes, it's really the next year and a half, 2 years is going to be that focus, is building that product out and making sure that it's something that people really want. Uh, so far, it's gotten pretty good feedback. It has a ways to go, but it's definitely a new place to apply AI where, we're all applying AI in different places now. It's kind of, in my opinion, an inevitability that AI is going to be part of our lives in pretty much every facet. It's just how long it takes and the quality. I think the biggest problem with AI right now is just the quality that it can produce. There still needs some work there, but overall, it still has some pretty amazing applications. That's our big focus.
There's the combination of elements and to uh, bringing things to people that are going to be in service of what their goals are, I think is also a really key part of this. As you were talking, I was reminded of um, AI being integrated in all of our lives, and this AI tool that they used at a party to help make drinks, and
Yep.
the reviews generally were less than the 2 stars of the drinks that were produced, and I think it really highlighted what a key problem is that I think you're addressing here is that you only get what you put into it. And so if you're
Yep.
just like, hey, create a unique combination of liquors, well, that's not going to necessarily culminate in something that's going to be good for somebody. However, if you apply the science of the chemical makeup of the smells of the different liquors and liqueurs, the potential exists now for an actual drink that would be good or something that would be good for people. And so I love um, that's a part of what you guys are doing in terms of shifting gears and trying to create something that's going to be easier for people to use to kind of test and use the AI in a way that furthers that development, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. I actually, our company really is focused on the partnership between AI and humans
Mm,
because that's really where the strength of AI comes from. Um, I think we're a long, 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 long way away where AI is just going to do everything for us. But if you use it as a tool that can help, it can do some really, really powerful things. And so, like, even with this software testing and this new product, the whole goal is for AI to uh, help a test engineer produce test scripts and provide more coverage for an application faster and easier. But it's still going to require an engineer to go in and review and interact with the AI themselves. Um, I think that's really where the power of AI comes in.
yeah, man, that's super exciting. The
Yeah.
bridging that gap between humans and technology is it's evolving so quickly, and the opportunities that are presenting themselves are becoming more and more abundant. So there's a lot of room for growth, and there's a need for people innovating like you and your team are. So this is really awesome. In closing, I wonder if maybe you had any advice for somebody who's kind of out there trying to figure this space out for themselves, and maybe doesn't really know which direction to go. What sort of advice might you offer somebody like that?
If they're trying to break into like the AI space.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They're trying to figure something out and help people in a more meaningful way. What does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, man, I'm even trying to figure that out still myself. I don't know where my next place is after Audify. I'm planning on being here for a while, but as far as anybody trying to break into the space, uh, I would tell you that curiosity is going to get you far. It has for me. And so really just following what it is that interests you in the space. If you have interest in AI and analyzing why and what it is that interests you and trying to figure out what companies are doing that in that space. AI is going to be in everything. So uh, you have a pretty big pot to choose from. So it's just narrowing down. So for me, I really, really enjoyed programming, and I knew it was someplace that I wanted to go, but then I also really wanted to be more on the business side of things. And so this is kind of where I've ended up. So it's just really looking at what you want and going from there.
Yeah, as we mentioned, the opportunity is abundant. So just get out there and create something.
Yeah, I mean, the only other place I would tell you is we've talked about it a lot, but even job hunting and even like it's relationships really uh never going to be replaced. And you can go out and job hunt for a bunch of different opportunities, and I'm not saying you shouldn't do that, but it is also kind of getting out there and going to some of these events and going and seeing what is out there. A lot of my opportunities have come because I've expressed curiosity and expressed interest and gone to some event just on my own or done something just on my own. And it blossomed into something more that I wasn't expecting. It's that and just seeing the opportunity.
Yeah, really sound advice, man. If somebody wanted to reach out to you to pick your brain further or perhaps work with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, you can definitely reach out to me. You can either reach out to me on my LinkedIn, so it's just Sam Ostrom, or you can reach out to me on email. So my email is samostrom@audify.com.
Beautiful. We'll make sure to link to your LinkedIn at least in the show notes so that people looking for you
Yeah,
can find you there.
I'd say LinkedIn's probably the best way to reach out to me. I'm on there quite frequently. So
Excellent. On that note, if anybody watching or listening wanted to reach out to me and my team for your AI or marketing needs, you can visit nextgengrowth.com. Otherwise, that's it for this episode. Thanks for joining us for this conversation, and I will see you in the next.